Hi everyone, I am Jennifer from Auburn Yoga and Pilates. Welcome or welcome back. We are going to be doing another Pilates class with some yoga tonight. Tonight we'll be using the bender ball. So if you have a small little squishy ball, you can use that. If not, you can definitely do it without it. So I hope that you will join us. I'm glad to have you here. Okay. Let's get started. So we're going to start off and we're going to take that ball and wedge it behind our hips. So you really kind of want to push it in there a bit so that it really is very secure in that spot. And then bending your knees and planting your feet. Taking those arms out in front of you. We're going to scoop back and lengthen. And again, scoop back and lengthen. As you scoop back, you're pulling your abdominals back towards your spine. So big contraction of those abdominals. So this is a small little movement, but you should still feel something going on. And now this time, we're going to just make it a little bit more challenging by putting our fingertips behind our skull. Now you don't want to press forward on your head. You just want a light touch. Put those elbows out to the side here. We're going to scoop back and come up. So we brought the center of gravity back a little bit. So it should feel a little bit more challenging to you. Now this time I'm going to pulse back for 3. So 3, 2, 1, slowly lifting up. 3, 2, 1, slowly coming up. Keep going. Three, 2, 1. Last one. And coming up, reaching those arms forward. Now this time we're going to take one of our arms back. We're going to twist to that side like we're literally sweeping leaves. Excuse me. So we're going to take one arm back and come up. And then take the other arm back and come up. So you're scooping back a bit as you rotate. So getting that waist, those obliques involved. Two more. And last one. And grabbing hold of that ball and slowly lowering down to the floor. And bringing those feet in closer to your hips. And then lifting those hips up and placing that ball underneath those hips. Arms are by your side. And again, bringing those feet relatively close to your hips so that your ankles fall pretty much directly under your knees. From here, lift and drop. Just a little bridge. So you may or may not actually lift up off of your ball if you're using one when you come to the top of your bridge. I do not. My ball goes from a smushed ball to a much more round ball when I lift up. But my hips are not actually high enough, in my case, to lift up off of the ball. Now I'm going to hold the top of our bridge for 3 counts. So pulse for 3, for 2, for 1, drop it down. Again, lift using those hamstrings and those gluteals to help with that lift. 3, 2, 1. And 2 more. 3, 2, 1. And 3, 2, 1. Now, keeping those hips up on top of the ball and lifting those knees up. You want to try to place your knees directly over your hips and get your shins as parallel to the floor as you can. It's going to be tempting to do this or something like this, but you want to try to avoid that. You want to try to challenge yourself. Place those knees directly over your hips. Now keeping everything still except the right leg, hinge at the hip, come on. Left leg, hinge at the hip, come on. So as the right leg drops down, the left leg is going to want to move and vice versa. You want to focus on really keeping the side that isn't dropping perfectly still. That is going to be just as challenging, if not more challenging, than the actual movement in the leg. And 2 more. Holding it up, now speeding up the pace of those legs a bit. When one is up, one is down. Four more. 3, 2, 1. Drop both of those legs down and just take those arms, reach them overhead. Nice spine stretch. And then exhale those arms back down by those hips. And again, reaching up and coming down. Reaching up, coming down. 1 more time. Reaching up, coming down, lifting those hips, removing that ball, but keeping those legs bent. Taking those arms overhead, coming into a bent leg roll up. So modified, you can simply do a regular abdominal crunch. Or if you're able, you want to inhale to prepare. Exhale, come up and lengthen. Now slowly rolling down. Inhale to prepare, exhale, come up. Hopefully letting it float you up. Slowly coming down. And 2 more. Last one. Holding it up, taking that ball, wedging it behind you again. So again, really trying to stick it at that place behind your hips. And then taking your arms into a place where you basically grab hold of the opposite forearm. Now your hips are squared to the short end of your mat, or if you're not using a mat, what would be the short end of your mat? Scoop back, twist, right, center, right, center, come up. Try the other side. Scoop back, left, center, left, center, left, center, come up. And again, scoop back, twist, right. Come back, go left. Come up, go right. Go left. Excuse me again. And coming back, and twist. And going left. Last time. And coming up. Grabbing hold of that ball and taking those legs out in front of you. Sitting up nice and tall with the ball at your sternum. Bring those elbows up to the side. And really try not to move your lower body at all. From here, almost like a barber pole, let's twist to the right. 3, 2, 1, come center, go 3, 2, 1, come center. Last time right. Last time left. And coming here, bringing those feet together. And just folding forward into a butterfly stretch. Allow a stretch through your outer hips and thighs, and also through your back. And coming up, taking those legs out wide. And grabbing hold of that ball in one hand, we're going to twist to the opposite side and we're going to saw for 3. 3, 2, 1, come up, switch, and saw. 3, 2, 1, come up. So you're moving that ball toward the outside of your foot, toward that pinky toe side of your foot, as you're simultaneously pressing that opposite arm back. Last time on this side. Last time on this side. And now coming up and stretching forward. And coming up, and then taking those legs in and bending those legs again and coming back to wedging that ball behind you. As you can see, there are a lot of different things that we can do with this ball wedge behind us. So, putting it back there, taking those arms out in front. I'm going to start with my left arm. You can feel free to start with your right or your left, it really doesn't matter. But what we're going to do is a bow and arrow movement where we draw that elbow either toward the floor or to the floor. And coming up, switch sides. So if it's too much for you to go all the way to the floor, then don't. Last one. And coming up. Now, taking that ball between, you're actually going to do something different. We'll take that ball underneath our waist. So you want it basically somewhere along your waist or ribs, and it's just going to remind you to keep your rib cage lifted. So of course there are instances where we could really allow that rib cage to sag down and squish the ball, but we're not going to. We're going to try to avoid that, and we are going to lift up here. Now, taking that outer leg, externally rotating it, and lift and drop. Now, you can ground your fingertips like I did. This is a slight modification because it's helping me keep my balance. There are other places where I could put my hand. Oftentimes you will see that people lift that arm up and place it behind the head because then you can't use it for balance. So you have to rely on all of those muscles to isometrically squeeze and hold you in place. Last one. Now from here, you can stack your feet or you can stagger your feet one in front of the other. And we're basically going to try to come up and hold a side forearm plank here. So trying to keep your lower body lifted, reaching that arm up, and coming down to rest. Nice job if you did that. Okay, coming up and switching sides. So taking that ball under your upper waist and lower rib cage area, making sure you maintain the integrity of your shoulder. Stacking those hips, externally rotating that upper leg, and lift and drop. Try to make sure it's challenging, it's subtle, but it's still challenging, that your rib cage doesn't press down when your leg comes up. It'll be tempting, that momentum will take over and that will happen, but you want to try to avoid that. Two more. Holding it down. Again, you choose stacking or staggering those feet. Coming up, lifting into that forearm plank, holding that lower body lifted. And rest. And flipping over to your belly. And now, taking that ball out in front of you with your hands on the ball. From here, your thighs are parallel to each other, and you want to lift and lengthen. So again, ensuring that the thighs are parallel to each other. You decide how much lift you can get comfortably or relatively comfortably with this exercise. You don't want to force it, but you do want to challenge yourself. This time, hold the top of the pose. Sweep the right arm down to your hips. Bring it back. Come down. So coming up, hold the head and shoulders up. Sweep. Come back. Drop down. Coming up. Sweep. Come back. Drop down. Sweep. Last one. And coming up. Placing that ball somewhere between your knees. Bringing your hands slightly ahead of your wrists. Curling your toes under, lifting up, and pressing back to downward facing. The perfect down dog allows you to transition into a plank pose and then pressing back. So if you had to adjust your hands in or out, that means that inevitably you have to adjust what feels like an appropriate down dog for you. Continuing to flow from one to the other with your breath. Last one. And dropping down into an all fours position. And just moving through a few cat and cows. Holding a neutral spine and letting your hips fall back toward your heels, coming into some expression of extended child. You can keep the ball under your torso for safekeeping, or if you want to rest your forehead on the ball, you can of course do that too. Coming back up into an all fours position. Grabbing hold of that ball and placing it basically at your knee pit. So it's an unusual place for it, but you want to try to, get it in there as good as you can. Surprisingly, it's going to try to escape. Now, depending on what's comfortable for you, you can either be up on your hands or down on your forearms. So people who have wrist issues may inevitably end up dropping down to their forearms for this next one. But from here, you want to keep that right leg at a 90-ish degree angle, and we're going to lift and drop. Trying to keep those hips relatively squared to the floor. Lifting that knee up to either hip height or just under hip height. Hold it up, pulse. Dropping it down and up. Hold it up, pulse. And dropping that down, and switching sides. So taking that ball into the opposite knee pit, coming into that all fours position, and then lifting and dropping that leg in that flexed knee position. And pulse. And down and up. Hold it up, pulse. And dropping it down. Coming back to side one. I know, you thought we were done, but not quite. We still have some time here. So, taking that ball back into your right knee pit. So we're going to basically start at the top of the move that we did last time. And from here, you're going to take that knee and bring it outside of your ankle. Now, if you don't get all the way to the outside of that lower ankle, then feel free to modify with a shorter range of motion. Coming up, crossing it over. Two more. And drop it down. Now, if you're like me on that last one, I almost lost the ball. I didn't wedge it in quite well enough, and I wasn't squeezing quite as much as I should have. But enough, because the ball didn't go flying across the room like it sometimes does. So, starting at the top of that movement, crossing that leg over so that the knee goes toward the outside ankle. So it's a diagonal movement. Last one. And dropping that down. And then transitioning into a mermaid position. So ideally, you'd like one leg in front with your shin pretty parallel to the front of the room. The other leg is sort of tucked in behind you. You don't want to feel any discomfort though in the knee. So feel free to adjust that leg if you need to. Your spine, of course, it's not perfectly vertical because for most people, this hip is not going to be firmly planted on the floor. It's going to be slightly lifted, but you're trying to get your spine to be as vertical as possible. From here, reach those arms up nice and long. Now, sweeping over and over. So going toward the ball, going toward the back foot. Nice long arms. Now this time, place the hand on the ball side, on the floor. Reach the arm up at a diagonal. And what you're going to do is you're going to rotate your shoulders and your rib cage and try to connect those hands down on the floor. So coming up and coming over. Last one. Coming up, switching sides. And taking that ball, once again wedging it at your hip. And the reason that we're wedging it at our hip is hopefully it'll help you to keep some stability in your hips so your hips are not going like this while we do the movement. Reaching over and over. Last one of these. Holding the ball hand down, reaching the other arm up at a diagonal, getting a really, really long arm span here. And now twist so that you rotate enough through your torso that you're bringing your hands together on that mat. Last one. And coming up. And taking those feet out in front of you. You can put the ball anywhere. You don't really need it. I just know it's going to go rolling across the room. Folding forward, you can use a belt around the bottom of your feet, or you can simply grab hold of the bottom of your feet. Trying to keep the bottom of your feet parallel to the wall in front of you. So sometimes the big toes want to come in a little closer to the hips than the pinky toes. Trying to keep that even. And coming up and taking that right leg and crossing it over the left. You want to, I'll mirror you, so I'll do the other side. Okay, so you want to externally rotate that inside leg. You want to flex that foot, and especially the pinky toe. Take the pinky toe, direct it toward the knee. If you have really tight hips, this is likely going to be enough for you. Those of you who want a little bit more depth to this hip opener can start to fold up. Now you want to keep your heart lifted. I don't fold quite as compactly as many people will fold because my hips are pretty tight. So I feel a hip stretch almost immediately when I do this pose. But many people are able to take their torso closer to the inside leg or the foot that's touching the floor a little closer to their hips. So feel free to fold up if you can. And then lengthening that side and then switching sides. So taking that opposite leg, externally rotating it, lengthening that spine, so zipping up that spine, flexing that foot, and maybe you keep it here and that this is deep enough of a hip stretch for you, or maybe you come back. In yoga, this is our seated pigeon pose. And lengthening. And now coming back into a supine position. If you have tight hamstrings, you may want a belt of some sort. You can start off by bending your knees and planting your feet. Make sure you keep your waist, keep the integrity of your waist. Don't let your right waist scrunch in when you lift the right leg up. Keep the waist long, keep pressing that hip down. And then maybe using a belt or maybe grabbing hold of that big toe, but taking that leg up for a hamstring stretch. And if you're able to, you can extend that lower leg. And you're trying to really enthusiastically extend the lower leg if you can, pressing that femur down toward the floor. And bringing that knee back to your chest, extending that leg, trying the same thing on the other side. So placing that strap around the ball of your foot and extending that leg. And then bringing that leg into your chest and extending that leg nice and long. And now just taking your arms overhead, pointing those toes and really just coming into as long of a pose as you can. Don't worry about where your ribs are, where your legs are, where your abs are. Just stretching as long as you can, taking a big breath. and then curling up into a little ball, taking those knees into your chest. And then rolling up to your side to come into a seated position and circling that spine. So for those of you who are watching live or are faithfully doing these classes right after they are posted, first of all, good for you. But you probably noticed that I did a little bit more Pilates this week than we've been doing. And the reason for that is not because I don't love yoga, because I do, and we'll be returning to some pure yoga this weekend. But I found the last couple weeks that I personally was not quite as strong as I was before the stay-at-home orders started. Last week, reaching those arms up, sweeping one arm over, I went to go do a pose that I could very easily do for years, and it wasn't so easy. So I don't know if you're feeling the same way. Let me know if you are, but you know, summer's almost here. Summer will be here in a couple weeks if you're watching this live. It is May 30th, so just about 3 weeks until summer coming over. So trying to bring that strength back. But don't worry, we will be bringing some yoga in because we definitely need to stretch, relax, and release too. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed it. I really hope to see some of you in person soon, but if I can't see you in person, I'd really love to read your comments and let me know that you are there and that you're well and that you're participating. And remember, we post all of these on the YouTube channel too, so you can subscribe there and get notifications if you feel like sometimes you miss us live on Facebook. So take care. Have a good one.